Mary had a little man. The fault.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The reality is murder is legal, and there is already plenty of gun control in place. Every single time we see these shootings happen, there's so much more to the story. We want to know what kind of drug abuse is going on with that person. What kind of psychotropic medications are they on, and are those making an effect? As well as what is their home life like, and what are their parents doing? The other questions are, where did they get these guns, and why weren't the checks and balances that are already legal, why didn't they stop it? But the real reality is schools are gun-free zones, and many places are gun-free zones, and that leaves every single person unsafe because you can't defend yourself.
Okay, enough of the crazy. How's that? Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. Listen, tomorrow 5 states are going to vote. Do you understand that? 5 states are voting tomorrow. Missouri is voting tomorrow. We'll see if Eric Greitens actually wins a primary. Oh, my God. Listen, if he does, we would like to run against him, just so that you know that, because I like this guy, Lucas Kuntz. And no, it's Kuntz. I like this guy. He's a Marine veteran. He's served 13 years in the Marines. He's running against this madman, Greitens, who can't, get close enough to an assault weapon on the TV. And, he's been accused by his ex-wife of abusing her, of, abusing their 3-year-old son. He had to resign as governor. You know that. He had to resign as governor of Missouri once before because after a year and a half of service to Missourians, it turned out he was having an affair with a waitress. Oh, so what? Big deal, right? Right. Except that he was blackmailing her with nudes. Nude photos. He said that if she said anything about their affair, he would publish her naked photos. He came under criminal investigation. I mean, honestly. So we'll find out who we're running against in Missouri tomorrow. Also, Kansas. I need to tell you this. Kansas tomorrow on your ballot is almost a complete and total 100% ban on choice. Ban on women's bodies. There is almost a 100% total abortion ban on your ballot. You are the first state after the Dobbs decision to vote about whether or not a woman deserves the privacy that a man has in this country about his reproductive life. Because there are no laws that require a man to, save his semen. No, there's no laws about male reproduction at all. So that's on the ballot tomorrow in Kansas. Arizona, you got like crazy people on your ballot. You know that, right? You've got the Pence-Trump battle in the GOP primary between, the Robeson lady who's, supposedly the normal Republican. I don't know. And she's being endorsed by Mike Pence. And then you have crazy election denier whose name is on the ballot. She trusts elections enough to actually run for something in Arizona on the ballot. But Carrie Lake is also there. And, of course, the crazier you are, the more Trump likes you, because crazy people in the Senate, crazy people in state secretaries of state's offices, crazy people in state legislatures, crazy people as governors are advantageous to Donald Trump and his ilk. They like to, rubber stamp cult members. So we have that, and then we got Michigan tomorrow and Washington State. So a lot of stuff tomorrow, a lot of stuff on ballots in 5 states tomorrow. Now, the reason why I played, Miss Taylor Greene there, saying that murder is legal. Yes, she said that. You didn't go crazy. You didn't imagine that. She said murder.
The reality is murder is legal. And
yes, murder is legal, she said. I'm going to give her this one. I'm going to say she misspoke. But she said about gun violence, she was very interested in finding out about these shooters. after they shot people, after they shot up schools or grocery stores or churches or, concerts or shopping malls. She's very interested in what kind of drugs were they on. So are you for drug testing before you can buy a assault weapon? She wants to know what kind of psychotropic drugs they're taking, and did that make an effect, she says. So do you want people to be, psychologically profiled? Do you want them to have to report what drugs they're taking, whether they're over the counter, whether they're psychotropic drugs prescribed by a primary care physician or a psychiatrist? Do you want to know whether or not they're taking psychotropic drugs? She also wants to know where their parents are, and she would like to know all about their background. Their background. If you ask me, she's advocating there for background checks, but she's too stupid to know that that's what she's doing.
There is already plenty of gun control in place. Every single time we see these shootings happen, there's so much more to the story. We want to know what kind of drug abuse is going on with that person.
Okay.
What kind of psychotropic medications are they on?
Okay.
And are those making an effect? As well as what is their home life like? And what are their parents doing?
She wants background checks, is what she's saying. But she wants them done after the killing, not before. So on Friday, the House of Representatives, yes, the federal House of Representatives took a vote. They actually put it to the floor and took a vote on an assault weapons ban. Again, let's reiterate, by the numbers, guns in America. There are 400 million guns in America. 400 million are owned by some people in America. Again, 20 million of those 400 million are assault weapons. So it's a tiny little sliver of what's out there, but these are the weapons of war that people like to have if they're planning on killing a lot of people really quickly. Okay? So the House voted for an assault weapons ban, which doesn't affect mostly everybody in this country who owns a weapon. It doesn't affect hardly anybody. And it passed. It literally passed 217 to 213. The crazy part was that there were 5 Democrats that voted against an assault weapons ban. 5. And 2 Republicans that voted for an assault weapons ban. You talk about bipartisanship. There was some going on there on the Friday. Now, you know it will not pass the Senate unless and until we actually deliver a stinking majority that can get rid of the filibuster in the Senate. And it's not looking too bad. It's not looking god awful. You know why? Know why? Because the Democrats have produced tangible things for the American people in just this last week. In the past week, we got this CHIPS bill, which is it's mega. It's really, really big. It's huge. Where we will invest in building 20 regional hubs that will make, what was the Rust Belt into viable manufacturing hubs yet again here in the United States. And we will make our own damn semiconductors. Thank you very much, China. You could do what Trump does. You could bully, you could scream, you could yell, you could point, you could call them names, you could call the virus the China virus, or you can do something in the competitive realm, in the money realm, in the manufacturing realm that actually gives China a run for its money. Literally, now you understand what that means, a run for its money. And that is what we were able to pass in a bipartisan manner last week. We also got this inflation fighting bill it's basically Build Back Better without the great stuff for kids. Because they couldn't get the kids covered, okay? It was just too heavy a lift for the anti-abortion people to take care of the children. Swear to God. So there's no child care, there's no child tax credit, there's no school lunch there's nothing for kids, okay? There's no pre-K, none of that made it in. Because the anti-abortion people don't like the children. Same as the warmongers don't like the veterans. Same as the corporate, lovers who think corporations are people, my friend, hate people. Yeah, they're not really fond of the working class, just the corporate class. Well, that's about to change.
all things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
If the citizenry in America is disarmed, then we are no longer citizens. We are subjects. You know, here in America, we have gourmet treats for puppies. We have these amazing groomers for dogs. Well, in Venezuela, they eat the dogs. And it started because they don't have firearms. They do not have a way to protect themselves, to defend themselves against a tyrannical government.
Okay, so listen, they are one-trick ponies, really. I mean, the Eric Greitens ads, the Lauren Boebert Christmas cards, the Marjorie Taylor. All they talk about is these inanimate objects. They're in love with this thing. They're in love with a gun.
That's Sebastian Gorka, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sitting there and she's saying this insane things. He's like, "Yep, makes perfect sense." Just nodding, right? Perfectly normal what you're saying.
It's perfectly normal to say that Venezuelans are eating their dogs, or that saying that gun ownership is what you need for the tyrannical government, meaning they are telling their cult members, their crowd, that insurrection and overthrowing your government by force is something in the Constitution or something the founding fathers were for. Let me tell you something. That is why a well-regulated militia being necessary is in the Constitution, because they were not the founding fathers who literally had to have a revolution, didn't want to see the government that they fought for be attacked by the citizenry. Okay, that was not part of our. It's so sick, and they all sit there and they just not. Yes, that's what you need the guns for. You need the guns to fight again. You know, can I just tell you, citizenry, meet the tank, meet the drone, meet the missile systems. Are you out of your freaking? There's some sick people in that Republican Party. This was Marjorie Taylor Greene on the floor of the House.
And I will tell you something right now. I thank God for AR-15s.
Did you hear? She thanks God for AR-15s. Yes, and I'm sure God created the AR-15. I mean, what is wrong with that? Enough of the crazy, okay? Here you have serious policy bills, serious, money being raised here in these bills. I don't know if you realize this, but this inflation fighting bill actually raises $739 billion. That's how much we get from lowering prescription drug prices for the Medicare program. Meaning, if you allow Medicare to negotiate with Big Pharma, who's running ads all over Florida, I don't know what's going on in your neck of the woods, but I could tell you right now, on my TV, there are 1,000 ads about how if you allow Medicare to, they never tell you this part, if you allow Medicare to negotiate with Big Pharma the price of prescription drugs that the Medicare program pays for prescription drugs, suddenly we won't have any research and development. Suddenly we won't have any cancer drugs. Suddenly we won't have any Alzheimer research. Suddenly this is such garbage. This is such fear mongering. But you know how much money we raise for our government if we allow Medicare, which is our government, to negotiate with Big Pharma for the price that they pay in the Medicare program for drugs? $288 billion. So that's like $300 billion that gets raised with this inflation fighting bill. $313 billion is raised simply by doing a corporate minimum tax of 15% for corporations that have a profit over $1 billion. A profit, not revenue. A profit. Meaning after all costs, everything else, okay? Money in, money spent, employees paid, still left over $1 billion in profit. Well, those companies like Amazon, like General Motors, we find out year after year that they ended up paying zero. No American is for that. It's like 86% of us are like, that's wrong, fix that. And this bill does fix that. This bill says 15% minimum tax, which is less than most people pay. Most humans that work for a living pay more than 15% of their income. 47% of Americans don't pay because they make too little, but the rest of us do. So anyway, they pay 15%. And then the IRS just enforcing our laws, just enforcing what's on the books, that raises $124 billion. And then there's this pesky little loophole called the carried interest loophole, and that raises $14 billion, just closing that freaking loophole. As you know, families making less than $400K pay nothing more. Not a penny, not a nickel, not a dime. And the Republicans are out there lying to you about this, saying they're raising taxes. We're not raising taxes. We're closing loopholes so that $1 billion a year in profit gets taxed at 15%, so that hedge fund managers can't use a carried interest loophole year after year after year and pay nothing in taxes, so that the IRS has the money to enforce our laws in collecting those taxes, and to allow Medicare to negotiate what it pays for prescription drugs for Medicare participants. That altogether, that raises $739 billion. Of that $739 billion, we invest $433 billion of it. And then the rest, the $300, we pay down the debt. That sucks. Oh, boo. And guess where that money gets invested? 369 actually goes into domestic energy production and manufacturing. That goes into wind turbines. That goes into solar panels. That goes into tax credits for you, tax credits for me. I live in the freaking Sunshine State. Can you imagine if you know what my electric bill was last month? Do you have any idea? Okay, I will say this before I say that. I looked at gas prices today. I didn't have to fill up. You know, I only fill up like once every 2 weeks. But, you know, I always tell you what it cost me to fill up. And it's less and less week after week. But today I was driving by the gas station. Same one. I always use the same one so that, you know, it's not like the expensive gas station or the cheap gas station. I just pick, you know, the one that's near my house. Gas today, regular, was $3.85. Okay, so that price is coming down. My electric bill last month was $735. It's usually around $400. I don't have a small house. I don't have a giant house, but I have a house, and it is about $400. It's almost double. It's almost double. If I could slap some solar power panels on my roof, you think I wouldn't do it? So that's what we're going to get. Tax credits for doing that. Tax credits for switching from, from furnaces to heat pumps, electric, everything electric, and tax credits to buy electric vehicles, which, you know, I would like to do, because my car, I don't know if you know this, I think some people do. My car is almost 11 years old. Yes, my car is 10 years old, going on 11. And I don't want to buy anything until I can get the tax credit for an electric vehicle, which, if this thing passes, I will get $4,000 to buy a used electric vehicle. That's awesome. $7,000 plus to buy a brand new one. I think I'll do that because I drive my cars for 10, 11 years.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
You look at Georgia, Herschel Walker, I can't even complete a sentence. You have no idea. And neither do most Republicans there have any idea what he's saying when he starts talking about global warming. And then in Arizona, there's a special kind of crazy in Arizona Republican candidates. I know, I'm serious. Far crazier than we ever saw in, you know, Christine McDonald and other people back in 2010, 2012. I mean, just really, really crazy. It seems that this is a Republican Party. We're watching something extraordinary. And we can't blame the politicians in Washington, D.C. These are the actual voters. They are driving their party over a cliff and enjoying every second of it.
Look, you're seeing in the polls, in the Winning the Issues poll, the Democrats are 6 or 7 points ahead on generic ballot polls. And, Joe, I've said this on this show before. I'm going to say it again. This election for Democrats is not, if they do it successfully, will not be a referendum on the economy. It will be a referendum on crazy. That's it. You know, and Joe, you've pointed out on the show before, we have a little history made several months ago with Le Pen and Macron. Macron is exactly where Biden was, you know, just no energy behind him, just very unpopular. But the French voters said that's better than crazy. And when you look at the Blake Masters and you look at the J.D. Vances and you look at the Herschel Walkers and you look at the Mehmet Oz's, you know, they're all kinds of different crazy, but it is a level of crazy when you put together what's going on, what has gone on with guns, with insurrection, with abortion. It's crazy town. And that is something that is starting to show up in the polls, and that is what the Democrats have got to paint the picture of. Do not make it a referendum on runaway inflation. Do not make it a referendum on a stock market that is, you know, having woeful times. Do not make it a referendum on wages. Make it a referendum on we can't go to crazy town.
Yes, that's kind of the way, you know, you have to approach this election. We can't go to crazy town. Enough of the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Lauren Boeberts and the Donald Trumps and the J.D. Vances and the Mehmet Oz. You know, Mehmet Oz is just, he's such a snake oil salesman. I mean, if they want to go back to the 1800s, no wonder they like him. This guy has been selling snake oil on his TV show for years and years, not disclosing to his audience that he owns $1 million worth of interest in the companies that are manufacturing these things, these pills that, you know, science has said is no better than a placebo. But he just tells you, you know, oh, you're going to lose all this weight, or, oh, you know, you're going to get an immune system that could fight COVID, whatever the hell he said. These are snake oil dudes. These are literally crazy people. They're nuts. Herschel Walker, please, Georgia, give me a break with this. That man is one of the most mentally unsound, undeserving to hold power people that has ever run for public office. And I'm talking about, you know, Gosar and Biggs and Banks and Jordan and all those creatures, all those creeps. They're creepy dudes. They're all creepy dudes, every last one of them. But Herschel Walker, I'm sorry, but his own campaign, his own advisors said they never met anybody who lies as much as he does, who is mentally unfit, unsound to hold any position in the government, let alone be senator from Georgia. And those are his own advisors. You know, I'm telling you right now, he's got like all these kids from all these women who he never acknowledged, saying that other parents are bad parents, that fathers, black men are bad fathers. And he's probably the worst of them all. He's probably that walking, breathing stereotype that he's spreading. I mean, this is some special kind of crazy. This is really lunatic, fringy stuff. And the reason why Donald Trump goes out and finds the most blackmailable, the most corrupt, the most disingenuous, the biggest liars, the most unfit mentally, the most mentally unsound people is because they will not push back on anything he does or says. They will never, ever abandon him. And all he wants is loyalty. He doesn't want a debate. And you know, Herschel Walker won't even debate Raphael Warnock. Why? Because he wouldn't last 2 seconds. He wouldn't last 2 seconds. This is no Bill Russell, who died this weekend. You know, we lost so many good people so far this year. It's just like freaking me out already. Now, I will say Bill Russell played basketball before my time, but I do remember when Obama gave him the Medal of Freedom. I do remember that. And he told America Bill Russell's story, which was really, really, really impressive, I have to say.
When Bill Russell was in junior high, he was cut from his basketball team. He got better after that. He led the University of San Francisco to 2 championships. In 13 seasons with the Boston Celtics, he won 11 championships, a record unmatched in any sport. Won 2 while also serving as the team's coach.
Oh, God.
And so happens he also was the first African-American ever to hold such a position as a coach in a major league sports team of any sort.
Oh, my God.
More than any athlete of his era, Bill Russell came to define the word winner. And yet, whenever someone looks up at all 6'9" of Bill Russell, I just did, I always feel small next to him, and asks, "Are you a basketball player?" Surprisingly, he gets this more than you think, this question. He says, "No." He says, "That's what I do. That's not what I am. I'm not a basketball player. I am a man who plays basketball." Bill Russell, the man, is someone who stood up for the rights and dignity of all men. He marched with King. He stood by Ali. When a restaurant refused to serve the black Celtics, he refused to play in the scheduled game. He endured insults and vandalism, but he kept on focusing on making the teammates who he loved better players, and made possible the success of so many who would follow. And I hope that one day, in the streets of Boston, children will look up at a statue built not only to Bill Russell, the player, but Bill Russell, the man.
You know, I mean, you say Bill Russell, and then in the same breath, Herschel Walker, and I think God strikes you dead. I do. So don't do it. Don't ever do it. I mean, this is a quality person. This is a person who fought the good fight with a smile on his face and a very famous high-pitched cackle that we'll never hear again. And you know who else we lost? Another trailblazer, somebody who went where no woman had ever gone before. We lost Nichelle Nichols, 89 years old. She, her son said she died of natural causes. You know her as Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek. She also did the ads for NASA to try and get women and people from all walks of life to know that NASA would hire people who were quality people to become astronauts. And then we have Herschel Walker. You know, it's just like, honestly, can you understand why Donald Trump goes and trolls the bottom for the feeders down there?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Would you have made, by the way, the offer for Brittany Griner and Victor Bout that Russia has put forward, where they'll trade this arms dealer's 25 years for arms dealing all over the world for the WNBA player and also, I believe, a former Marine is being held there?
She went in there loaded up with drugs into a hostile territory where they're very vigilant about drugs. They don't like drugs. And she got caught. And now we're supposed to get her out. And she makes a lot of money, I guess. But we're supposed to get her out for a absolute killer and one of the biggest arms dealers in the world. Killed many Americans, killed many people. And he's going to get a free card. And we're going to get her. She knew you don't go in there loaded up with drugs. And she admitted it.
Loaded up with drugs.
I assume she admitted it without too much force because it is what it is. And it certainly doesn't seem like a very good trade, does it? He's an absolute one of the worst in the world, and he's going to be given his freedom because a potentially spoiled person goes into Russia loaded up with drugs.
Oh, it's just... Brittany Griner is a spoiled person loaded up with drugs. You know, she was arrested in Russia with 7/10 of a gram, 7/10 of a gram of cannabis oil that was prescribed for her for pain for injury sustained as a basketball player by her doctor. He calls her loaded up with her. He's literally taking Vladimir Putin's side on this too. I mean, and spoiled. I don't think her daddy, paid a doctor to get her out of Vietnam. I mean, you can check and see if Brittany Griner's daddy paid a doctor to say she had bone spurs to get her out of Vietnam. But I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. I'm pretty sure. Loaded up with drugs, anything to kiss the boots of any autocrat in this freaking world. You know, CPAC is going to host Viktor Orban, who just said this weekend he doesn't want the races to mix. Swear to God. He doesn't want the races to mix. I don't know how far back they want to take us, but it does seem like 1849 or 1682 or somewhere in the Dark Ages is about where they'd like Americans to land. This is crazy. I mean, you're having the great floods there in Kentucky. Where's Mitch McConnell? Where's Rand Paul running to the rescue of Eastern Kentuckians? I just don't see that happening. And you know how many people are going to, end up being declared, perished in those floods in Eastern Kentucky? Over 100. I think it's 30 now, but they found hundreds of bodies. Hundreds. And the number is just going to go up and up and up. And I don't hear anything from the libertarian Rand Paul, who's on the ballot, Kentucky. He's there. He's on your ballot. I don't hear anything from Mitch McConnell saying, we need, a declaration here. We need, diapers, please, to, send baby formula, send diapers. Babies in Kentucky, they need everything. I don't care if it's Fruit of the Looms. You got to send, you got to do, you got to make it happen. No, I just don't see them getting all, outraged for their people, demanding anything at all for his people, for their people. This is crazy. And how did Trump spend his weekend? Did you see anything from that stupid thing, that live thing that he did with the Saudis? Did you see anything from it? First of all, it was so lightly attended, I have to say it was a joke. Second, I saw on StubHub, and the Wall Street Journal confirmed what I saw, because I was like, that can't be right. The tickets for that golf tournament that he had at Bedminster, where, by the way, he decided he was going to bury Ivana. Do you know that? He buried Ivana on the golf course to get a tax break. I swear to God, that's how sick and twisted this man is. But he buried her on a golf course where he partnered with the Saudis to pick off players from the PGA Tour, because the PGA was supposed to play at Bedminster. They were supposed to have their tournament there. But after January 6th, after the violence and the insurrection and the death of 5 people and the maiming, mangling, and mutilating of 140 police officers, the PGA canceled their appearances at Doral in Florida and Bedminster. So out of revenge, Donald Trump went to, the Saudis, and the Saudis said, well, we can improve our reputation, after the Jamal Khashoggi thing. And of course, that 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudis, and that Osama bin Laden was also a Saudi. Yeah, just small world, isn't it? And that the women, the Wahhabist Islamists in Saudi were selling their gold to support Al-Qaeda after 9/11. Remember all that? I do. So he actually decided he was going to partner with them. And the 9/11 families, believe it or not, even after all these many years, were outraged, sickened by it. But I looked at the tournament. I wanted to see. So he picks off of the top 50 golfers who are included in the PGA Tour. He takes 10. 10, they're not in the top. But he takes, like Mickelson. How old is he? 52? Yeah, like everybody wants to watch a 52-year-old try to play golf again. And the tickets were literally selling for $1. For $1. And he turned it into, he took this golf tournament, and instead of making it about sportsmanship, instead of making it about, doing your best, listen, when he talks about, these people, these amazing sportsmen, he obviously, has no nice words to say about a Bill Russell. He has nothing good to say about, Brittany Griner. He has nothing good to say about anybody that isn't loyal to him. He does say good things about Herschel Walker, and he says really bad things about America and really good things about the Saudis. So the Saudis threw like an enormous amount of money at 10 of these players to get them into the Live Golf Tournament, which was just an astounding failure this weekend. It was ugly. And so what did you have? You had some people on the course that were literally screaming things like, "Let's go, Brandon," at a golf tournament. At a golf tournament. It was really sad. But remember, this is a guy who said this ahead of the golf tournament.
You're so closely associated with the city of New York. Yeah. You, of all people, understand the passion surrounding 9/11. What do you say to those family members who protested earlier this week and will be doing so again on Friday?
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have, as to the maniacs that did that horrible thing to our city, to our country, to the world.
No one?
So nobody's really been there, but I can tell you that there are a lot of really great people that are out here today, and we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to celebrate, and money's going to charity. A lot of money's going to charity.
Get out.
And you have really the best players in the world, many of the best players in the world.
Every sports writer this weekend that I was reading or hearing or listening to commentary from all said how disgraceful, how disgusting this was, that everything he's doing is just grotesque, and it was a sad, sad thing for golf and golf professionals, and that these golfers were getting things like jet airplanes and $100 million paydays for nothing, for absolutely nothing. And nobody really wanted to see these people play golf. And so very few people showed up. And then the ones that did show up, they decided they would go to the golf course and stand on the sidelines. And they would, chant, "Let's go Brandon," for some crazy reason. This is what they do. They desecrate everything that's decent about this country, everything that's good about this country. He has to crap all over it because it's what he does. It's who he is. It's disgusting. So he's saying Brittany Griner is a spoiled, rotten, loaded punk. And Putin's right not to make the trade. Putin's right. Oh, God. But Herschel Walker is his type of guy. What a sick and sad, twisted freaking government we had. That was led by this miscreant, this spoiled, rotten child. Mr. Bone Spurs himself. And what do you mean we never got to the bottom of 9/11? You know, we had a 9/11 commission, and I think what they said was it was done by a country that rhymes with Saudi-Arabia. Yeah, I think that's what he said. I think even you can understand that. I think we understand that Osama bin Laden was Saudi. I think we understand 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi. I think we understand who took a bone saw to Jamal Khashoggi and cut him up into pieces. It's just, and by the way, for all you people with your Hunter Biden stuff, you do know Jared got $2 billion from the Saudis. You do know that. So Hunter Biden, actually was working for 5 minutes for a company called Burisma in Ukraine that never attacked us or anything like that. Okay. But Jared takes $2 billion from the Saudis, who did, after he was a senior advisor to the President of the United States during a time when they chopped up Jamal Khashoggi. Okay.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I am a passionate believer that every veteran should have the right to see any doctor you choose. It should be your decision. So if you want to go to the VA, that's your right. You've earned it, you bled for it, and you should have that right protected. But if, on the other hand, you want to go to the local doctor down the street, if you want to go to the local cardiologist, you should have the right to do that as well.
That was Ted Cruz circa 2017, lying about how much he respects veterans and that they deserve the best health care, that they should be able to go to any doctor they would like. They should go to their rural provider. They could go to any hospital. This is how passionate he is about this. And yet, on Friday, when they struck down the PACT Act, which would serve 3.5 million, I can't believe that number, veterans who got sick from toxic burn pits, he was seen on the Senate floor fist bumping all of his colleagues that voted against that damn thing. And whatever happened to their repeal and replace Obamacare? Where's the replacement? Where's their health care plan? They don't have one. Let me take the mystery out of it for you. They lie. They lie about everything. And so Pat Toomey, who's leaving Pennsylvania, and we do hope that we'll be swearing in Senator John Fetterman in his place next January. We just do. He went on the TV to try and lie about why they were against the veterans' health care plan.
This is the oldest trick in Washington. People take a sympathetic group of Americans, and it could be children with an illness, it could be victims of crime, it could be veterans who've been exposed to toxic chemicals, craft a bill to address their problems, and then sneak in something completely unrelated that they know could never pass on its own, and dare Republicans to do anything about it because they know they'll unleash their allies in the media and maybe a pseudo-celebrity to make up false accusations to try to get us to just swallow what shouldn't be there. That's what's happening here, Jake.
But this,
my
this
efforts,
was
my
in
Republican
the bill.
colleagues.
This was in the bill passed the Senate last month.
Yeah, and we were promised that we'd have an opportunity to offer an amendment to change
After it
this.
passed?
And then, of course, that was reneged on.
What? No one does it that way, okay? You don't get a chance to amend a bill after it's passed your chamber and then goes to the House for passage. This is such a lie. And did he just call Jon Stewart a pseudo-celebrity on top of it? And to add insult, okay, to injury or injury to his insult, he just classified veterans who need cancer care and respiratory therapy and all kinds of care for 20 different illnesses that came as a result of inhaling jet fuel and human waste and toxic things that were thrown into a burn pit, okay? He just classified their health care as pork. That's what he was saying. Oh, you pretend that you're doing something for some group that's very sympathetic, like veterans who, got sick from toxic burn pits, and you throw something in there. Is he implying that the veterans are the pork or that they added money for pork? Because there was no money added. $0 were added after it passed the Senate 84-14. Now, I can't believe that 14 Republicans voted against it to begin with, but now you have about 25 of them that are voting against it. And Jon Stewart was like, what is he talking about?
I want to address the talking point that the Republican senators, and I've started to see it bubble up, and it's just not true. They're suggesting that a budgetary gimmick was inserted into the bill at midnight by the dirty Dems that somehow is a Trojan horse to $400 billion of spending that has nothing to do with veterans. And I'll say this, the most despicable part of this whole thing is watching on the Senate floor, Ted Cruz fist bumping and then patting each other on the back when they blocked this bill. Josh Hawley and Pat Toomey celebrating their victory over veterans with cancer. Way to go, guys.
Yeah, you
win.
win.
Finally handed it to big veteran with cancer.
Yeah, way to go. That's what I keep telling you. If you win, what will you have won? Way to go of dominating big vets with big cancer. Yeah, way to... There was no $400 billion budgetary gimmick, period. Here's the thing. The way you pay for things in the United States, in legislation, is either they're discretionary funds, meaning once you appropriate them, you can use them for other things, or mandatory spending items. This particular bill had mandatory spending for veterans' health. Period. End of story. The House Republicans try to turn it into discretionary spending. They're the ones that are actually pulling the roost. They're the ones with the gimmick. They're the ones that are trying to say, let's make it discretionary, then we could steal. It's so sick, and it's always ass backwards, and it's always disgusting, and it's always at the expense of the person who doesn't have a lobbyist. This is why Jon Stewart is such a special human, in that he did this for the 9/11 first responders when they got sick. and their money ran out because their money was capped, because there was a certain amount of money that would be spent on their health care and not a nickel more. And that's what's going on with this bill, too. It's the same scenario. And we don't have lobbyists, us veterans, okay? We don't have a lobbyist. But we have Jon Stewart. And Jon Stewart is doing the heavy lifting here for everybody because for some reason he has this understanding and this soft spot for people who run into danger, which is what the Republicans say they worship. They love that. Oh, it just blows their mind because they're a bunch of, bullies, empty suits, right? When Josh Hawley fist bumped everybody outside while he was protected by security, as soon as the tourists or Antifa or whatever he thought it was, started to breach his, hallowed halls, that man ran. He ran like Mikhail Baryshnikov across the stage in a Russian, ballet. Woo, he was out of there. Because they're empty suits, they're fakes, they're frauds. That's like, Donald Trump literally trashing people who are in harm's way, literally just trashing them. And saying they're spoiled when his daddy got him out of service by saying to a doctor, here, I'll pay. And you remember that crazy doctor. Remember him? In New York? Uh-huh. They're disgusting. All right, here's the VA secretary. His name's Dennis McDonough.
You just heard Senator Toomey arguing that the way this bill is structured could open the door to unrelated spending abuses by the VA.
Jake, if you look in the bill for $400 billion that he's talking about, you won't see it.
Right,
you'd have to go deep into some charts at the back of the CBO report about to find that. Why is that fund in the bill? The fund is in the bill so that we can ensure, as you suggested, that all the spending for this program is for the veterans exposed to these toxins. And so he says it won't impact our programming. In good conscience, I don't see that to be the case. In fact, he puts a year-on-year cap on the what we spend, and then at the end of 10 years, the fund goes away under his amendment.
Nice.
So the impact of that would be if his estimations are wrong about what we'll spend in any given year, that means that we may have to ration care for veterans.
Yeah.
Because, and by the way, that's not something I'll sign up to.
They are playing games here with people who are very seriously ill, who have been poisoned by their own freaking government. This is some sick, twisted crap.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Senate Republicans voted for this just a month ago, now voted against it. Put that aside for a second. Let's look at the reason they're saying now. They say that they want this spending to be discretionary spending, not mandatory spending. That's Washington speak for saying that it has to be voted on every year.
Right.
They want a vote on that amendment. Are you okay with them getting a vote on that amendment? Would you still favor this bill even if that amendment passed?
Sure. Vote on the, absolutely. I absolutely vote on the amendment. Bring the amendment to the floor. Give it the same threshold that the veterans had to clear, which is the Senate threshold of 60, because it's Senate math, not real life math. Give them the threshold, give them the amendment. By the way, John, the Toomey amendment doesn't change it from mandatory to discretionary. It's still mandatory. The Toomey amendment is really about capping the fund. It's about putting caps on it and giving it a sunset clause for 10 years. Now, we've been through this with the 9/11 first responders. What Toomey's amendment wants to do is make sure that our sick and dying veterans have the pleasure that our 9/11 first responders at Ground Zero had of having to come back to Washington, hat in hand, riddled with cancer, and march through the halls of the Hill begging for money every year.
Every year, yeah. That is what Toomey's idea is. That is what he's all about. And then, Ted Cruz, circa 2017, I have a passion for veterans health care. You should be able to get the treatment you so desire and want and need anywhere. Go everywhere. You want to go to the VA? You bled for that. You want to go to your doctor? Go for. I am so passionate. These are the front-running, phoniest of phonies that I've ever seen. And, what Jon Stewart said is still resonating with me because, he said something that we all know in this audience. Every single one of us knows this, that the hypocrisy of them is insane, okay? It's endless, and it's insane, and it's reliable, and it will always, always, always happen. Always, always. Like the guy from Pennsylvania, the Republican Pennsylvania congressman who voted against gay marriage and then went to his son's gay wedding the day after, right? Like that. And he said, listen, I'm used to that. And the lying, obviously the lying is endless. The lying, I'm passionate about veterans. I love our veterans and support the troops and fly your flags and all that. And I've told you for years, they can't stand us when we come back dirty and wounded and needing care. And we know that because we've seen enough of the treatment of veterans in this country. The Vietnam veterans, okay? After World War II, that was the last time that you saw veterans be revered. That was but, we had a Democratic, president and a Democratic Congress for 40 years or something like this? Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Vietnam veterans came back and they're like, no, we don't like them. There's something wrong with them. They're throwing their medals away, and they say that the war was, bull crap, because it was. And we turned our backs on those veterans. And then the Iraq veterans, they went there for no reason. That was a lie, too. That was just bullcrap because it makes money for people who own stock in defense contractors, right? But anyway, we've seen enough about how veterans are treated. We've seen enough. GI Bills were there when you signed up. Then when you got out, no more GI Bill. Yeah, we get it. But they still profess their undying love and devotion to those who would give the full measure of sacrifice. Semper Fi, dude. Always, always fidelity. You and me together forever. It's a lie. It's a lie, and we know it's a lie. But what Jon Stewart said he couldn't get used to was the cruelty. The cruelty. And that, I think, is the stunning portion of this party. It's not just, it's not the hypocrisy, and it's not the lying, and it's not the disingenuous way in which they pose themselves as they send us, little lower middle class children, off to their crazy maniacal bullcrap wars. No, it isn't really about that. It's about the cruelty with which they treat others. The cruelty. That's what's shocking. That's what's hard to abide. Robert in Florida.
Hey, Randy, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
Listen, I got, that burned my ass when I heard Trump being interviewed about that basketball player. Number one, that basketball player was invited by Russia to go play and teach their players how to play basketball. It was more of like a cultural exchange rather than, some lady just trying to go make a living playing basketball. It was more to elevate their game, and
well, she had played there for many years. This wasn't her first trip to Russia.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how about the question asked to Donald Trump? Well, so if that's the case, then what did we trade for that Warmbier guy who went over there to North Korea to proselytize and came back dead?
Yeah.
What did we get out of that? We got a promise that you could go to North Korea and make them look legitimate. Is that what happened, Donald?
Yeah. That is.
About this with
because he fell in love. Remember, he wrote notes and he wrote love notes back, and then they fell in love. Him and Kim Jong Un fell
like
in love.
A fiddle.
Yeah,
played like a fiddle. Randy, let me ask you this question: did you see Ivanka? I know it's a little off topic. I'll go quick. Did you see the gold casket going in and out of the church for Ivanka? And then they say that the commentator said, that's $180,000 gold casket. There's no way Donald Trump's putting $185,000 into the ground. I guarantee you, when that purse got into the leaking tunnel, they They can send it back.
Oh.
I'm serious. They rent. I was going to rent that. He's not buying a $180,000 casket.
That's a very sick and twisted and very Trumpian thought that he took that casket
you know
back.
what? He thought, hey,
although I
let me
will
tell
say
you
this, she
right?
did have her own money, she did.
That's true, but let me just tell you this. He's taught me to think like him, and it's disgusting. I don't like this way I think now.
It's
everything-
cruel. It's cruel.
It is.
Yeah.
You got to think the worst of people.
Yeah.
Oh, my own. Terrible. Hey, I love you. Ciao.
Thank you. So you just reminded me, Paulie died. We're losing everybody now. Paulie died. Ray Liotta, obviously, he was gone a couple of weeks ago. Who else? James Caan died. I'm losing all my guys over here. Just saying, it's really, this is rough, this getting older thing. Got to sit back, relax, and watch all your heroes die. And yet, you got this big fat freak who, they tell me he's going to live to be 1,000 years old over here. The guy who eats burnt hamburgers with ketchup on it and drinks Diet Cokes all day long. His exercises. Did you see the cheating at this golf tournament? Did you see this? Oh, my God. He was kicking balls and picking up divots, and he rode his little golf cart. He rode it onto the green, and other people were like, what are you doing? He's cheating. He's a cheat. They call him, I didn't know this, but I was listening to one of the sports reporters just say what a dark day for golf this was. And he was, talking about Donald Trump's golf cheating. And he said that they call him Pele because he kicks the ball so much. Because he's a lousy golfer. What a sick... oh, God, I can't believe this is what they wanted.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, look at that. Oh, there's like no one there. It was very lightly attended for $1 a ticket. You couldn't even give them away. And who was there? Kimberly Guilfoyle and Marge. Now, Marge is trying to tell us that Donald Trump might pick her to be his Veep, that he's going to run again, and that she is being considered to be the vice president of the United States. Oh, my God. How just like how low are we going to let this go? Do we not have any limit to how creepy we will allow this country to get? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Chris in Idaho.
Hey, Randi, how are you doing?
Hi, Chris.
For second time, long time, I was on the Alaska cruise with you.
Oh, wow.
A million years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And first of all, I would like to apologize for the fellow Idahoans who've been calling you. I wish I could say something in their defense, but there's nothing I can say. But what I really called about was electric cars.
Yes.
You've been talking about them recently, and specifically you've mentioned the Nissan Leaf, which I purchased in February. And you just mentioned earlier today that you were hoping the $7,500 tax credit went through. It's already there. You can put your name down on a list to get an electric car now, because you can get the credit this year.
Yeah, no, I know that. I know that. So here's the thing. The $7,500 on a new car, you bought it new, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's been there. That has been there. But the manufacturers of EVs have a cap on how many people can get that $7,500 tax credit, meaning
correct.
So like Tesla, GM, if they sell 200,000 EVs, then the tax credit is phased out for the buyer, right? So this
Correct. Yes.
this takes the cap off. So it doesn't matter that Tesla sold over 200,000 cars anymore. It doesn't matter that Nissan has sold over 200,000 cars anymore. Everybody can now get the 7,500 on the new car. What's very, very new about this is the cap is off, and you can now get $4,000 as a credit for a used car, which was never available.
Right. Yeah.
So this is an extension.
I wanted to make sure that
this is an extension and the removal of the cap, right? Because if you went to buy a Tesla, you wouldn't get the 7,500, even if it was brand new, because they've sold over 200,000 of them. Same thing with GM and Toyota.
Yes, the Nissan Leaf, though, I think has not sold as many, and so I'm expecting to get the whole.
It said for Nissan on the list of what I have here, it said Nissan is very soon to have passed 200,000 Nissan Leafs sold, and once they hit,
probably because they're
being
selling more this year, I would imagine.
You like that car?
Yes, I do. We've so we bought it in February, and they said it was 2 weeks out, and it turned into 5 weeks before it got delivered. But so we got it in early April, I think. So we've had it for about 3 months, I think, to drive. But we are enjoying it. We did get the higher end, so we got the bigger battery. And
how far can you go?
It says 215 miles.
Okay.
On a charge.
Right.
We have not, tried to
go further.
See exactly. Pardon?
You haven't tried to go further than that, right?
No. We have driven 150 miles and made it on one charge, no problem. And then, that's where we were going and stayed and got it charged overnight. So. It worked out, and I mean, other benefits to this I've read on the interweb, so I know it's true.
Huh.
But Nissan Leaf forums that people use these. They can use the car to charge. As a generator for their house. Like in Texas, when the power has gone out, people have used their cars to actually give themselves power and keep the refrigerator going or whatever.
Is that
when you turn
true?
on the car,
if that's
well, it's on the interweb, so
it must be true, right?
It's got to be, right?
Well, listen, I'm in Florida and we have hurricanes, and the very first thing that goes is the electricity. Very first thing,
right?
And then it's 2,000.
You'd have to get a connection to for it to feed back into your power grid, but yes,
I see. So it's always something. That's what you're saying. Yeah, it's always
right.
something.
It's always something. But the other thing, say you're going shopping and you leave your car at a parking lot and it's 100 and whatever degrees. It's 104 or something here today. And you can leave your car on. And it'll use a little bit of electricity, but it'll keep the car cool the whole time you're shopping. Or if you turn it off, the AC comes on immediately. There is no waiting after the car warms up.
Oh,
it's like boom, you've got AC.
Right.
So it's really nice. And putting money where my mouth is. I'm getting solar installed next week.
I'm very jealous of that.
That's the other thing.
That's so
right.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you haven't mentioned, but I think they're at least extending this, or it's still, there's a 26% tax credit on that.
Yes.
So
not here,
something
though.
else to not there.
Not
no,
in the
that's
Sunshine
federal.
State. No, because here they don't have the hookups. You know what I mean? Like you can't you can't get your house to go solar. You can't do it yet.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say, some states are more beneficial than others as far as these tax credits. If we lived in Oregon instead of Idaho, I'd get another $2,500 on that car.
Yeah.
Tax credit, but Idaho, whatever.
Thanks for telling me.
All
right.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Is that the new state motto? Idaho, whatever.
It's beautiful there. It really is. It's just been taken over by white supremacists for the most part. No, I'm sorry. It's just the Coeur d'Alene. You have a very bad reputation, as you know. But I think it's beautiful there. I think it's just stunning.
I'll go ahead and take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't think they'd let me live there, though. I don't know why. I just feel like she's leaving her car running in the parking lot of the mall there at the grocery store, and I just feel like I would never leave my house. You know what I mean? Like I would have to have a Ring doorbell, and I would have to have like a direct line to 911, and I just feel like, they would come and get me in the middle of the night. But it's nice that she feels so safe that she could leave her car running. Just for AC. That's awesome.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
And I will tell you something right now. I thank God for AR-15s.
All righty then. David in Georgia.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, David.
Hey, so contrary to news reports, we have not given up, ladies and gentlemen. Do never give up, right? We filed, I believe it was Thursday of last week, a notice of appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court, challenging still Marjorie Taylor Greene's eligibility to be on the U.S. payroll or any other government payroll in these United States.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that means that maybe finally we'll have a judge who is not about to retire, as was the case twice prior, retiring into private practice and have chosen their clients, right? Have chosen that their clients will be Republican, crazy people, or a big business, or what.
Why don't you just vote for Marcus Flowers and organize for Marcus Flowers? Why don't you do that instead of waiting to go to the Georgia Supreme Court? I mean, two courts below, as you know, because you've done this in your group, have tried to get Marjorie Taylor Greene off the ballot. This is what David is referring to, and it was a heavy lift. There's no question. It was an amazing effort. I'm very proud that you did it. I'm really excited that there's a group of people in that district that understand that she is a traitor to this country and does not deserve to have a position of honor on the ballot, let alone in Congress. But there is a guy running. His name is Marcus Flowers. And when, all the legal efforts are exhausted and you've come to the end, just organize the same amount of effort, the same amount of enthusiasm for Marcus Flowers and get her out of there.
I saw Marcus Flowers on Friday afternoon along with Stacey Abrams.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And
now there's another one. I mean, and then you have Raphael Warnock. I mean, Georgia, I'm looking at you and I'm begging you, please don't do this. Look, when you look at what Kentucky is suffering through, when you look at what St. Louis is going through with the floods, and you look at fires in California and every other thing that's happening, that's being thrown our way, that is only supposed to come once every 1,000 years, right? And you see it happening over and over and over. It matters who is in leadership. It matters who is representing you. Herschel Walker is not going to give a rat's ass about you. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't give a rat's ass about you. She's very busy hanging around the Saudi killers and Donald Trump, trying to become his vice president. His vice president. How sick and twisted is this?
Okay, so electoral politics. Wouldn't she have to resign as a representative to be his vice presidential pick?
Only if she wins.
Okay, well, she'll not get that chance. We're going to have her head on a platter. Thank you, Randy.
All right. Ed in Florida.
Hi, Randy. First-time caller. I just want to say thanks for what you do. Love your show.
Thank you.
Today I heard an ad on the radio for Anna Paulina Luna. She's running as a Republican for the House. I'm not sure which district. It's in the Tampa Bay area. And they said...
she's running for Charlie Crist's seat, isn't she?
Most likely, that makes sense. They said that you should vote for her because the gas prices are high due to a radical green socialist agenda. And you'll see on the posters that she's endorsed by Donald Trump, encouraging people to get these gas prices down and vote for her. And it's
well, these gas prices are coming down, so now what? What is she going to do now?
Right, and it's how do you pin the blame on that? Like, are people really buy into it? You know?
It's interesting. I mean,
it's incredible.
We're not part of OPEC, number one. Number two, the idea that the price of oil isn't set on a global marketplace and that the president of the United States has anything to do with the price of oil is very, it's tasty, to know how stupid we've become. The idea that, inflation is global and that it is the result of a poorly managed COVID pandemic and an interruption in the supply chain. You want to know why we have negative growth this quarter? It's very simple. It's inventories. Okay, so when, gross domestic product is the sum of everything that America does, everything that it makes, everything that it sells, everything, right? And And you have like the big box stores, they loaded up on inventory. So you have like Walmart and Costco, and they loaded up on inventory. And now the amount of consumer, activity is a little less. And that's why you're going to start to see sales, like crazy sales at Walmart. You're going to start to see crazy sales at Target. And the reason why GDP is down is because they're not replenishing inventories because we're not buying them. That's what's going on. So so what I'm saying is anybody that's running on gas prices or anybody that's running on, inventory
she has
from
no
Target.
Points or anything.
Right.
She's just an attractive veteran, Hispanic, Latina, running, and she's being used by the Republican Party. I just wanted to share that little bit with
Shocking that a Latina would be used by the Republicans. Oh, yeah, I'm shocked.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you for what you do. Really love it.
Thank you. Thanks for the call. Kevin in Los Angeles.
Oh, my God, Miss Rhodes, it's a pleasure talking to you, Miss Lady. Thank you for answering my...
Sure, that's what I mean.
Tell me, when are we going to stop letting these Republicans benefit off of what Democrats do to make this country the greatest country on the face of this earth? We let these people come in here, we get everything right, and then here they come, they reap the benefits of our right, of doing everything was supposed to be right for everybody.
Well, at some point, Kevin, it has to be the voters, right? At some point, you have to say, my God, why do you keep falling? It's like Lucy and the football. It's like Charlie Brown with Lucy and the football. It's like, how many times are you going to fall for it? How many times are they going to drive us off the cliff, wreck the car, and then turn around after we repair the car, after we, retrieve the car, repair the car, get the car roadworthy again, and then they're going to ask for the keys back? I mean, how many times are we going to fall for this? How many times?
Randy, I have friends that I've grown up with all my life, right?
Yeah.
They have just totally blown me away where I'm like, you guys have lost your minds. They speak like this guy is so perfect and so, like the greatest thing walking on the face of this earth. I just have to just pull back and just be quiet and act like I feel like I'm on another planet somewhere sometimes,
Well, let me tell you what it is about him that they like, okay? They like that he's a bully. That's what they like about him. They like that he lies. They like that he lies right to, everybody's face. They know he's lying. They don't care because they like a bully. They do.
Right. And I want to ask you two persons I would love you to speak on. Who the hell is this O'Bannon guy and Mr. Ben Shapiro? Because Ben Shapiro talks to you like whatever. Don't believe what Trump says. Like he's just like, don't take it serious. Mr. Shapiro, he is the president of the United States. He was formerly the president, and he's running it again. So, can you speak on these two people? And
yes.
Randy,
First of all, let me tell you this right now. Okay, they have become so racist and anti-Semitic. On top of it, that Ben Shapiro is no longer welcome in the MAGA crowd because Ben Shapiro is Jewish. He's an observant Jew. He wears a yarmulke. And they don't want Ben Shapiro in their party. You got this guy who runs Gab, that platform, that social media platform?
Yeah.
Okay, his name's Andy Torba. And him and Bannon and a bunch of these white supremacists have all teamed up. And now they're turning on their own. They're literally getting rid of Ben Shapiro and other Jewish MAGAs like, Jason Miller. All those guys, they're no longer welcome in MAGA. Okay, that's how far down the hate road they've gone.
Wow. I just sit here, Randy, and I look at the news and see, you're going to tell me how CNN is the most, I love that, the theme from, the most trusted news. Oh my God, they are the best. I love CNN. And please, Randy, I just want to commend you. Thank God we have somebody that's preaching truth. And I love you. God bless you, and continue doing what you're doing, Randy.
Well, thank you. Right back at you. Thanks, Kevin. Well, let me just tell you something. The idea that they're going to eat their own, just know that that's true. That's actually happening. You have, these men who are keeping themselves in the fraud game just by preaching hate and telling people it's okay. Hatred is okay. It's an American value, right? They are literally self-weeding, okay? They're getting rid of now the conservatives who are Jewish, the conservatives who are black. This Paulina Luna, she's going to be very sorry because they'll get rid of her too as soon as she loses. She won't even be able to get them to answer a phone call. Just be warned.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there? It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
The United States launched a targeted operation against that compound.
They did a lot of shooting, and they did a lot of blasting, even not going through the front door. You think you go through the door. If you're a normal person, you say, knock, knock, may I come in?
After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
He died like a dog.
But his death does not mark the end of our effort.
A beautiful dog. A talented dog.
We give thanks for the men who carried out this operation.
And I don't get any credit for this, but that's okay. I never do. But here we are.
Oh my God.
May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
And I'm writing a book. I wrote 12 books. All did very well.
A beautiful dog.
That's your guy, MAGA. That's your guy. He died like a dog. A beautiful dog. They usually come to the door, knock, knock, who's there? All right. So, we had to start with this because, just as I was learning how to pronounce Ayman al-Zawahiri, he's dead. No, I mean, we've been saying his name for 20 some odd years now. For 20 years. And now, he lived to be 71 stinking years old. And so we launched some drone strike. He was out on his balcony. Would you like hellfire with that coffee, sir? And we just took him out with a drone. Now, this shows you a couple things, okay? One, what an idiot Trump is. Apparently, he had a chance to kill Ayman. Ayman al-Zawahiri, I don't know if you remember his history, but he was part of the group that plotted the assassination of Anwar Sadat back in the day when they were making peace, in between Egypt and Israel. And the right-wing Israelis took out our guy. I always want to say it wrong. I mean, I always want to say it's like Menachem Begin or something wrong. I know. I'm a bad Jew. And then, Sadat was killed by the Muslim Brotherhood, right? Because the lunatic fringe on both sides of the peace deal didn't want the peace. And so this guy here, Ayman al-Zawahiri, he was jailed for his participation in that assassination attempt. And then, when he was 15 years old, I don't know if you know this, when he was 15, he actually started like the Muslim Brotherhood. He called it something jihad. Since he's 15 years old, he became a surgeon and, tended to Osama bin Laden. They became, just wonderful friends. And he became the number 2 in Al-Qaeda, which is Arabic for the base. The base. And, he was apparently hiding out in Pakistan like Osama was for a really long time. We got Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. I think it was in Abbottabad, Pakistan, when the Navy SEALs did their operation and took him out. This guy, Ayman al-Zawahiri, he was living in Kabul. He was living in Afghanistan. Now, why this is important is 3 reasons, I think. First, it shows that the Taliban is hosting Al-Qaeda still to this minute, to this day, even though they said they would not if we left. And we left, and we lost 13 guys in the leaving, right? And the right-wing lunatic fringe, they didn't want to celebrate ending a 20-year dead-end war where, obviously, we didn't even need to be there because, see, we were able to take out Ayman al-Zawahiri as he was out on his balcony in Kabul, Afghanistan, having a cup of tea. So we didn't really need to be there. So that's number one. But the other interesting part about it is that Trump had a chance to get Ayman al-Zawahiri, but he didn't want him because he said he didn't recognize his name. He wanted somebody with the last name Bin Laden or Baghdadi. He wanted somebody, that he knew his name. So I believe that we took out Hamza bin Laden, who was Osama bin Laden's son. That's who, Trump went after and killed him. But the other thing that's really important is to show that we didn't even need to be there, that our intelligence operations are so complete and so reliable that we can do what Biden promised we could do if we left Afghanistan. And that was something called over-the-horizon operations, which means you don't have to be in country to get the proper intel on a person that you've been hunting for 20 years. You can leave the country and still get the intel, pinpoint this guy, follow him around with drones, get his pattern of life, meaning what does he do every day? Where does he go? What does he do? Who does he see? And then, track him and make sure that he's, regimented enough to, know that in the morning he's going to go out on his balcony, he's going to have a cup of tea. And then you can send a Hellfire missile right through his window, which is what we did. So, last night Biden was on the TV announcing this.
When I ended our military mission in Afghanistan almost a year ago, I made the decision that after 20 years of war, the United States no longer needed thousands of boots on the ground in Afghanistan to protect America from terrorists who seek to do us harm. And I made a promise to the American people that we continue to conduct effective counterterrorism operations in Afghanistan and beyond. We've done just that. In February, our forces conducted a daring mission in Syria that eliminated the emir of ISIS. Last month, we took out another key ISIS leader. Now we have eliminated the emir of Al-Qaeda. He will never again allow Afghanistan to become a terrorist safe haven because he is gone, and we're going to make sure that nothing else happens. It can't be a launching pad against the United States. We're going to see to it that won't happen. This operation is a clear demonstration that we will, we can, and we'll always make good on the solemn pledge. My administration will continue to vigilantly monitor and address threats from Al-Qaeda, no matter where they emanate from.
Qaeda. It's Qaeda, everybody. But, Brett was reminding me before the show that when Joe Manchin joined the Democrats in voting for what is essentially Build Back Better without anything for children, right? That Kennedy said something went on with Manchin, something went on because there's no coincidences in Washington. There just aren't any coincidences. And for people who watch, the leader of the white supremacist movie, the Master Race, the face of the Master Race is Steve Bannon. help the master race, because if Steve Bannon is what it looks like, who needs it, who wants it, who has to have it? Nobody. But he was saying that there are no coincidences in D.C., and Bannon sits in front of, a picture of Jesus, a very Catholic Jesus. And then on the other side, he's got this poster that says there are there's no conspiracies and there's no coincidences, right? So if that's the truth, do you think, I don't know. I mean, not that anybody's going to care about Ayman al-Zawahiri, even though he was top of mind for all of us who lived through 9/11, who actually lived through it and remember waking up on that Tuesday morning, who remember everything about it, and remember Osama bin Laden, and remember Ayman al-Zawahiri was his number 2, and remember, Masood, the lion of the Panjshir Valley, who was the person who was the enemy of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. I don't know. Okay. But if there are no coincidences, and Donald Trump got on the TV defending that he's taking Saudi blood money by saying,
you're so closely associated with the city of New York. Yeah. You, of all people, understand the passion surrounding 9/11. What do you say to those family members who protested earlier this week and will be doing so again on Friday?
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have, as to the maniacs that did that horrible thing to our city, to our country, to the world. So nobody's really been there, but I can tell you that there are a lot of really great people that are out here today, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
So he just said nobody knows who did 9/11 in order to cover up the fact that he's taking Saudi blood money, to make it okay to take Saudi blood money, when obviously 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudis and Osama bin Laden was a Saudi, and we all know that we got an intelligence report that said that the Saudis were responsible for knocking down the World Trade Center. Is that why we went after Ayman?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This is a major, major get. The next in command is a guy named Saif al-Adil, longtime al-Qaeda leader and veteran. Second in command to Zawahiri assumed that he would take control of the organization, but we'll hear more details as we get them from a CIA drone strike over the weekend.
So, Brett, was this spontaneous, do you know, or was this a staged operation like with Osama bin Laden?
This was a drone strike with active intel. They had intelligence were being told that Zawahiri was at a certain residence outside Kabul. It's hard to believe after all these years that just outside a major city in Afghanistan, where the U.S. had been operating for a long time, is this al-Qaeda leader. They acted on that intelligence. We're told that it was a drone strike. We don't know the confirmation and what led to their confidence that it is Zawahiri, but again, you're going to hear a moment tonight that will be President Biden's bin Laden moment, because he will give a speech, we're told, that deals with the fight against terrorism that has been ongoing, even though we haven't talked about it a lot. Ayman al-Zawahiri, you see on the screen there, had been a leader, a spiritual leader, and also someone who is fomenting terrorism in different groups around the world. This is a huge, huge win for the U.S. Yay. And we expect to hear that and where the fight goes from here as far as taking out other terrorists.
So even Fox News was saying, congratulations to Joe Biden. This was a huge deal. It was a big get. He was the CEO of a major terrorist organization that operated throughout the world, that we really still are on the, the eye in the sky when it comes to fighting global terrorism. We just don't need to have 20,000 boots on the ground to do it, right? And even Fox News was saying this is a big damn deal. This is a big get. This is the CEO of, a massive terrorist organization. General Hertling was also, giving props to Biden.
General Hertling, how significant is this strike killing the al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri?
This is a target that the U.S. has been going after for over almost 3 decades, Wolf. This even goes before the 9/11 strikes. Zawahiri leads an al-Qaeda that has various networks around the globe with an uneven, centralized control. Affiliates like Hurriyat Din in Syria, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and Yemen, Ansar Islam in the African Sahel, Al-Shabaab in Somalia. So you're talking about an individual who is the CEO of this organization. You can debate how powerful he is compared to bin Laden, but it's a big deal. The other thing I'd bring up too is, Barbara mentioned that this was more than likely a drone strike. That I would give that probably a 70% possibility, but I wouldn't rule out a man strike against this individual either. What you're talking about is the kinds of things we talked about when we withdrew from Afghanistan. This would be an over-the-horizon strike with very little capability for collecting intelligence within Afghanistan. This was a significant hit by both the intelligence community and anyone who pulled off this operation.
So Biden sucks, right? I mean, it's just like the most amazing thing in the world, and nobody will give him credit.
I'm almost looking forward to seeing how Fox could possibly credit Trump with this, and they didn't even try. I was shocked.
You can't credit Trump with this. Trump was presented a list of Al-Qaeda. He was presented a list of terrorists, and he didn't recognize any of the names on the list. So he said the one name he knew, he said, how about Hamza bin Laden? They said, okay, so we can go get Ham. And they did. He was 30 years old, and he's Osama bin Laden's son. But honestly, this is just, an amazing thing. It is the end of an incredible era of terrorism and terrorists, and it's something that every American should just sit there and know that we don't give up. We don't give up. You bring down the World Trade Center, you attack us here, especially on our soil, and we will hunt you down to the ends of the earth and make sure that you die a brutal, violent death for doing what you did to us. Whereas you have the most immediate past president say we never got to the bottom of 9/11. We never got to the bottom of who brought down the World Trade Center. And so therefore, I'm going to hold a golf tournament taking Saudis' blood money, right? And they don't have any players. The Saudis don't have any golfers. So they're going to pick off 10 of our top 50, and they're going to pay them astronomical amounts and then claim them as their own and use sports to whitewash Saudi Arabia's bloody, bloody history with the United States. And so, listen, Trump could have said a lot of things. He could have stood on that golf course and said, oh, hey, by the way, don't play through over there because, we just buried Ivana. Is she a hazard now on the course? You have to avoid like the sand trap and Ivana's grave. And he really did do it. He really did do it. This is a man who buried, I don't know, like what woman lets her ex-husband choose her burial site. Honestly, was that in the divorce agreement? I can't even imagine, because he knows that if he buries somebody on the golf course, then the golf course becomes a cemetery. And it's like the trifecta of tax evasion. You don't have to pay state tax. You don't have to pay property tax. In New Jersey, you don't have to pay income tax on because if it's a cemetery. And by the way, I found out last night, it doesn't matter how many corpses you have on your property. Just the one will get you those tax write-offs. So I'm, listen, my mom's 92. Well, she'll be 92 this Sunday. Happy birthday, Loretta. She'll be 90. When her time comes, and it will, I'm going to bury her in my backyard and declare my house a cemetery and not pay taxes. So anyway, that's who Donald Trump is. That's what Donald Trump does. Everything is about business. Everything is about money. Everything is about, but he could have stood in front of the camera. And when he was asked about, partnering with the Saudis who have no golfers and picking off our golfers and, offering them, private jets, literally as payment to, be a Saudi golf. By the way, if the Saudis want like Phil Mickelson to, be a spokesperson after the next terrorist incident, if God forbid that ever happens again, Phil Mickelson better show up in Riyadh. He better be there, or he's going to be I don't know, dismembered with a bone saw, I'm guessing, at, at a time of Saudi's choosing. Just saying, he's fully owned by the government in Riyadh. He's owned by the royal family now. But all Trump had to say was, hey, that was 21 years ago, and we need to move forward, and we need to make the peace, and we need to do things together in order to grow our relationship. No, but he stood there and said, we don't know who did it. I don't know if Biden did this to show Donald Trump you do know who did it. You said you knew who did it. You knew who did it in 2016. You've always known who did it. What's wrong with you? I don't know. But it's done.
Call in, connect.
Yes.
To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. The battle over abortion rights has turned to the states, and for the first time since the fall of Roe, voters are weighing in directly.
Yay.
This morning, with abortion on the ballot in Kansas, activists on both sides say the stakes could not be higher.
I'm excited to see what the people of Kansas decide, but the lives of all these unborn children are at stake.
I believe strongly that women need to have this choice for themselves.
It will be up to the voters to decide whether the state's constitution should remove protections for abortion rights.
We wanted to only make abortion illegal but unthinkable.
If the amendment passes, it will clear the way for Republican state lawmakers to restrict access to abortion or ban it outright.
Oh, my God. So today is the day. Today is an election day. It's primary day. This is interesting and weird, though, when you think about it. So Kansas has a constitutional amendment on the ballot. If you vote yes for this constitutional amendment, it'll be the last choice you ever make as a woman in Kansas. That's for sure. If you vote yes, then they take away choice. You're not going to have any choice in the future. If you vote no, then you're saying you don't want the Constitution in Kansas amended to take away your right to make choices. So you have to choose today whether or not you believe in choosing. What's really twisted about it is this isn't a general election. As you know, it's August. This is a primary. Why would Republicans in Kansas choose to put a question as large as this that will affect so many lives of women, living, breathing women, on a ballot in a primary in a predominantly Republican state? Why would they? Oh, yeah. So they put it on a primary ballot, not the general election ballot in November. And that does spawn a lot of thought and concern about, the fact that more Republicans are likely to show up today because Republicans have more contested primary races on the ballot today than Democrats do in Kansas today on the primary ballot. But I will tell you that I started to look at some of the turnout numbers, and I also looked at some of the new registrations. And it's sort of heartening, but I don't know, I can't tell if this uptick in turnout and this uptick in registrations in a primary is by Republicans or Democrats. You can't find that out, right? So, but I will tell you that 271,000 voters had cast ballots as of yesterday morning, in the primary, and that is a huge jump from the primary turnout in 2018, which was also a midterm. I wanted to look at midterms versus, generals. But anyway, 90,000 primary voters in 2018 turned out for a midterm. And this time on Monday, yesterday, 271,000 voters had turned out in the primary. At this time in 2018, during the primary, only 90,000 ballots had been cast at this time. So of those who voted in the 2022 primary so far, 198,000 were early in person, 73,000 and change were mailed ballots that were returned, 120,000 mailed out, so 73,000 returned as of yesterday. And Republicans have a slight lead in voting overall, 122,000 ballots cast. Democrats have cast 106,000 ballots in the Kansas Republican primary scenario, so that's pretty good. And then in Kansas, you have to know that there are lots and lots of unaffiliated voters, and 40,000 unaffiliated Kansans had also voted early. So hard to say. I will tell you that they do have a Democratic governor there, Laura Kelly, and the Republicans will pick her opponent today in the primary. But Laura Kelly is pro-choice. Laura Kelly emailed, CBS News. Her campaign spokesperson, Madison Andrus, said the governor, quote, will continue to oppose all regressive legislation that interferes with individual freedoms or threatens the strides we've made in recent years, making Kansas a constructive place for business, and that includes opposing efforts to change the state constitution. Now, I do want you to understand that it will affect business in all of these 12 states so far, these 12 Republican states that have taken away women's rights. It will affect business because business is going to think twice about their reputation operating in a place that is killing women. Literally, women will die. There's no question women will die. We know the story of the 10-year-old who was raped in Ohio. It was such an amazingly sad story that the inclination of the Republicans who did this to us was to say it never happened. But it did happen. It absolutely happened. And you had the attorney general in Indiana, this Moquita dude, actually go and attack the doctor who helped this 10-year-old get rid of a rapist's fertilized egg, which is what it was. So, but since the Supreme Court overturned Roe, Kansas has seen, this is according to vote.org, a 963% increase in individuals registering to vote. 963% increase. Now, what we don't know is those new registrations, those new voters, are they for or are they against the constitutional amendment? We will find out tonight. We will find out. We'll find out if Kansas stays civilized or if Kansas becomes West Virginia. Will Kansas become Alabama? Will Kansas become Louisiana? Will Kansas become Tennessee? Or will Kansas stay Kansas? So that's interesting. And then we have all these primaries, in Arizona. We have Washington State primaries. We have primaries in Michigan. We have 5 states are voting today in Republican primaries, essentially. And there's a lot to see here. There's a lot to watch. I mean, Arizona, my God, every single Republican on the Republican side are all election deniers. Like every last one of them. For governor, you got Kari Lake versus Karen Robeson. Robeson is endorsed by Pence, but she's also a slightly election denier light. Like, she doesn't really know what happened. She doesn't really know the true answer. But Kari Lake, she has just made her entire campaign, her entire persona, every time you could talk to her about the weather, and she would say it was nicer than it was on the day they stole the election. Do you know what I'm saying? She never, ever misses a chance to be an election denier. She won't ever, ever say that Donald Trump lost. She wants to be governor, okay? Whoever wins today on the Republican side of things is going to face Katie Hobbs, who is the Secretary of State for the state of Arizona, who's tried to tell you the election was free and fair over and over and over. And now she's running for governor. So we'll find out who she runs against. We'll find out who her opponent is for real. And then you've got senatorial candidates on the Republican side. Every one of them is an election denier. Every last one of them. I mean, this is just back crap, this Republican primary.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Oh, my God. So these primaries are really, really crazy. I mean, you have some silly, crazy candidates. I mean, it's crazy town. It really is. Do you really believe in Arizona that Ron Watkins, the owner of 8chan, the host to the QAnon conspiracy theories? I mean, some people think Ron Watkins is Q and that he did it just to put value into that platform because 4chan was making a ton of money with the white supremacy. So on 8chan, they decided, we'll create some conspiracy theory, around this mysterious guy who is a deep state intel officer who's going to feed people this, idea that Donald Trump came down the pike to beat back some satanic cannibalistic child molester, some pedophile ring that secretly runs the globe. You know that guy that owns that platform, Ron Watkins, I swear to God, I thought he lived in the Philippines. He's on the Arizona ballot to be a member of the House of Representatives to serve alongside the likes of Lauren Boebert and, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Stop sending crazy people to the awesome, awesome House of Representatives and to the unbelievable United States Senate, the most deliberative body in the universe. I swear to God. Rusty Bowers, you remember Rusty Bowers from the January 6th committee? Remember, he was a very gentle soul, a very lucid man, a very man of an economy of words, but was very adamant about the fact that he had taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and that Rudy Giuliani, with no evidence at all, could be heard, but would not make him shirk his duty to this country without evidence. Remember him? He's on the ballot, and it doesn't look good for him. It doesn't look good for him. He's the Speaker of the Arizona House. And he's running against some Trump-backed election denier from the state Senate. This is very sick. This is very strange. Obviously, in Michigan, you've got, there were 5 people running to be Gretchen Whitmer, who is the governor of Michigan currently, and a Democrat, running to be her challenger. And 5 Michiganders were kicked off the ballot for, forging signatures so that they could get on the ballot. 5 of them. They were all cheating to run against Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, that's like an amazing thing that you didn't even start the process and already had 5 Republicans cheating. 5 cheating. So now you got some real estate broker named Ryan Kelly who pleaded not guilty to misdemeanor charges after authorities said he rallied Trump supporters to storm the U.S. Capitol on the ballot. And you got a businessman named Kevin Rinke who was sued in the 1990s for sexual harassment and racial discrimination. You got a chiropractor named Garrett Saldano who hawked supplements like Dr. Oz did, falsely claiming that his, stupid supplements could cure COVID-19. And you've got a conservative broadcaster named Tudor Dixon, endorsed by Donald Trump, who used to act in low-budget horror films. I swear to God, this is such a clown car full of candidates for the Republican nomination to run against Gretchen Whitmer. Okay, let's move on to Missouri.
Meanwhile, Missouri. The Republican primary for U.S. Senate there features the state's former Republican governor, who was forced to resign from that job after about 5 minutes in a scandal over blackmailing his former mistress after he allegedly forced her into a non-consensual sexual encounter and then photographed it.
Oh, God.
More recently, Eric Greitens' ex-wife has accused him in court of physically abusing both her and their kids. And he's released an ad that features him and other guys with guns in tactical gear pretending to hunt fellow Republicans they deem insufficiently Trumpy by storming into their house with guns. Eric Greitens' main rival for the U.S. Senate nomination in Missouri is another man named Eric. His name is Eric Schmitt. He's the sitting attorney general in Missouri. You may best remember him for joining a lawsuit to try to get the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Biden's election and then launching a fundraising effort off of it. Tonight, I guess this is breaking news. On the eve of tomorrow's Missouri primary, Donald Trump released an endorsement in this contest between Eric Greitens and Eric Schmitt. Trump says he is endorsing Eric. I'm not kidding. This is actually what Trump's endorsement press release says. I'm therefore proud to announce that Eric has my complete and total endorsement. And yes, both Erics have enthusiastically accepted that endorsement tonight.
This party is a scam. This party is a giant circus full of clown cars and clowns inside them. He endorsed Eric. You know why? Because he's hedging his bets. He's tired of endorsing losers. So he decided that since they're both named Eric, he would let them fight it out and he would endorse Eric. I mean, he's like this close to endorsing anyone with a vowel in their name. This is crazy. He literally posted on that stupid Truth Social thing that I never look at, but people who are on it, so I don't have to be, they tweet it or they Facebook it so you could see what he put there. He posted that all in caps, Eric has my capital C complete and capital T total capital E endorsement. Got that, Erics? You both have 100% of Trump's endorsement. Now, you could split that 50-50. But if you're really a Trumper, then you can each split it 100-100. Because that's the way your freaky mind works. And that's exactly what Eric Greitens did. He said he got Trump's endorsement.
Team, we just got President Trump's endorsement, and we are honored to have it. He was very clear that he wants a MAGA champion. That's what I am. My opponent, Eric Schmidt, he's a rhino. President Trump was clear he wants a warrior. I'm a Navy SEAL. Eric Schmidt is a career politician. President Trump was also clear that he wants somebody who's going to fight for America, for his values. That's what I've always done. By contrast, just last night, President Trump blasted Eric Schmidt for great dishonesty in politics.
I mean, he was not very clear about any of that. He didn't say any of that. He just simply posted on a, also ran social media platform that he was endorsing in all capital letters, Eric. Now, this is madness. This is.
I'll tell you what else is clear. He doesn't know any sound engineers or anybody who understands anything about acoustics.
Well, yeah. I mean, that it was painful. But, I mean, it really, honestly doesn't matter. They're both election deniers, both of them. Both of them, one actually worked to, object to the election as an attorney general. And the other one is Eric Greitens, who... Honestly, he put out that ad with the, where he's busting into people's houses with a tactical team into people's houses. It was creepy. But whoever wins that is just the Republican nominee to replace, the exiting Roy Blunt. So whoever that is, they're going to run against my pick, which is Lucas Kuntz. I just want you to remember his name, and I don't care how you do it. But Lucas, he started following me on Twitter. I'm following him too now. I followed him back. But yeah, I mean, so it's just an interesting matchup. No matter who runs against Lucas, they're going to be an election denier in Missouri. Now, I will say, Missouri. Look, you had what was it, Todd Akin? I don't know if Missourians remember. If you're not 30 years old, you remember Todd Akin. Todd Akin is the late Todd Akin now. But Todd Akin was a guy who ran in Missouri who said, and this is like ripe again, it's just everything old is new again. He said that women, if they were the victims of rape, swear to God, their bodies would know that. And their bodies would not let them have a viable pregnancy. That your uterus is smarter than you are, and your uterus knows that sperm was an unfriendly sperm that fertilized your friendly egg, and so your body would reject it. Well, he lost. And that's why we got Claire McCaskill, who's a Democrat in freaking Missouri, to be the senator. And now they're running Greitens and Schmidt, who are both violent wackadoodles. I mean, both of them are violent, lying sacks of dung. And Lucas is a 13-year Marine veteran. In this climate where veterans are being stiffed right along with women.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I'm Eric Greitens, Navy SEAL, and today we're going rhino hunting.
Oh, God.
The rhino feeds on corruption and is marked by the stripes of cowardice.
Oh.
Join the MAGA crew. Get a rhino hunting permit. There's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire until we save our country.
From what? From what? What are you saving your country from at the end of a semi-automatic weapon in somebody's home, in somebody's house?
Let me tell you something. When you go into the gun store and you say, I'm insecure and I'm looking to compensate, that is the gun they hand you. The one he's got in that ad.
It's really twisted. I mean, it's just like really. And when he was confronted about it by the Good Liars, you know, I love the Good Liars. They're amazing. They're fearless. And they asked him, he goes, "Oh, well, you know, that commercial was just a metaphor. It was just a metaphor, is what it was."
Your ad is the talk of the country right now.
I'm Eric Greitens, Navy SEAL, and today we're going rhino hunting.
You're comparing these rhinos almost to as if you're running into them in nature or something, right? It's big game hunting.
It's obviously a metaphor.
No, of course, right.
It obviously shows that the left, right, which has no sense of humor, and they want to outlaw metaphors.
Get a rhino hunting permit. There's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire.
It's like as if it's a rhinoceros, right? But then you go to a human house.
Well, you know, I think what was really clear about that was that it was a metaphor.
But it was in like a human house, so that's why I was kind of like, because it was like big game hunting, but then it was like you went to like a human house.
I think everybody who has a sense of humor recognized kind of the parody.
Well, I thought it was actually pretty funny, but then I was like, but then he's going to a human house with a SWAT team, because then it started to seem more threatening. Seem a little bit more threatening.
Yeah, they're going into a human house with, a SWAT team and, like a Navy SEAL team. It's a little threatening. It makes everybody feel like they are Osama bin Laden. You understand? Like, I was with you. I thought it was, what is with the guns? Why does every Republican have to be in an ad with massive firepower in order to convince people to vote? You know who else is on this ballot? You know who else is running for the same Senate seat that is being vacated by Roy Blunt? Do you remember the McCluskeys? Remember the McCluskeys? The St. Louis, couple that, pointed guns at people who were peacefully walking through their neighborhood on their way to BLM protests, but ventured down their street by mistake. And the McCluskeys came out loaded with, guns. Remember those beautiful people? They're also running. He is also running. That same guy, Mark McCluskey, he's also on the ballot next to Eric Greitens. Billy Long is on the ballot. I mean, Vicky Hartzler. These are and Eric Schmidt, the AG, who literally told people in Missouri that the election was stolen. This is the best the Republicans can come up with for a United States Senate seat. Okay. And whoever wins, it's my best guess that they will have to run against Lucas.
For Lucas Kuntz, service started early. When his family was bankrupted by medical bills, Kuntz's neighbors, who had no more than they did, got them through. Kuntz fights for universal health care because
no family should have to go through that.
When Lucas joined the Marines,
it was to serve the community that took care of me.
Now,
our democracy, Roe v. Wade, it's all on the line. And I'm still ready to serve.
Lucas Kuntz, the Democrat.
I'm Lucas Kuntz, and I approve this message.
Oh! Me too. I mean, there's like a legitimate human being who served his country honorably, who came up from nothing, who, when his parents went broke because of medical bills, he literally put that in his permanent Rolodex and made it his life's work to defend this country because it was full of neighbors that helped his family out when they went bankrupt. And now he would like to do service at the U.S. Senate in order to bring health care to every American. And this is the crazy part. This is the crazy part. Right now, women are being stiffed, obviously. We're having our rights taken away. The voting rights of every American is also on the ballot in places like Arizona and Missouri, where you have election deniers, all of them running for the Republican nomination today, okay? And you have, obviously children who've been left out of the Build Back Better. So the Republicans think that it's now okay, not just okay, that it's uber cool to go after women and children and veterans who need health care because they were deployed near burn pits, and came home with respiratory illnesses and even cancers. Now, if everybody in the United States had health care, we wouldn't need a VA, and we wouldn't need to beg for health care coverage for veterans who got sick from things like Agent Orange back in the Vietnam era. That's how long this fight has been going on to get the veterans the care they need, health care that they need, because America doesn't do that. We can't do that. We don't do that. We won't do that. I can't even believe that people are missing the forest for the trees, that the veterans who are up on Capitol Hill right now, with, thank God, Jon Stewart as their spokesperson, as their draw for the media to cover it, because this issue would never, ever, ever have made it to the TV had it not been for Jon Stewart watching them suffer all these many years and showing up for them, right? Nobody would stick a camera in their faces. Nobody's interested in their healthcare debacle or their dilemma. Except for like Lucas. Lucas is.
The people who kept us there for years, the same people who said, give us your sons and daughters, give us your trillions of dollars, we're building something real and lasting here, right? They lied the whole time. I mean, I believed them until I went there, and then I saw that it was all untrue. And I think the lie that hurts me the most is just how they told me that I was fighting for freedom over there. They told us all we were fighting for freedom, but really, like I've seen on this campaign trail in the last few months, like the real fight for freedom is right here. The front lines for the fight for freedom and democracy, it's right here in Missouri, right? Abortion rights are on the line. Voting rights are on the line. That's not in Afghanistan for us. That's for us right here, right? It's all on the line in Missouri. And so you just see that as a veteran who's been exposed to burn pits. You see these Republicans first take away all of our rights or attack them, and then the people they sent over there, they won't even take care of us, and they try to hold us politically hostage. It's absolutely criminal. That's what I'm running against here. It's why I'm thrilled to be doing this race, and we gotta win here on the front lines of democracy so that we can keep our country intact.
Major Lucas Kunce, that is his name. And whoever wins this Republican scam of a primary in Missouri today will likely run against him to take a Senate seat in a very Republican state, Missouri. But you've done it before with Claire McCaskill. And, I don't honestly think that you were sorry that Claire McCaskill represented you, Missouri, because she represented you really, really well and smartly and with dignity. Now, I didn't agree with every vote that Claire McCaskill ever took because she was representing a state that doesn't represent, my view on this. But this is crunch time now. You've got the Republican Party literally going after voting rights, the most basic freedoms they're going after. Now they're going after women's rights. 50 years of relying on the fact that we were free to make our own decisions about what goes on inside our families, what goes on inside our own bodies, what goes on inside our own lives, that's being taken away. And now they're going after the children, too. Remember the other day I told you about the story where 22 Republican attorneys general are suing the Biden administration because they want the right to discriminate against children who say that they are lesbian or gay or transgendered in school and deprive them, seriously, withhold school lunch. from those kids. They are literally suing the Biden administration for the right to discriminate against children. This is how sick and sad they are.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This is the lowest hanging fruit of a functioning society. Like, if we can't do this, the rest of us have no shot. Do you understand why this is important? This is the canary in the coal mine for the lowest bar. This government should be soaring to heights, not playing limbo and trying to get underneath the bars that don't mean anything. And so can we please not force veterans disabled from their heroism and sacrifice to stand outside the Capitol building days on end, waiting for this Congress to do the thing they already did on June 16th. It passed 84-14. Nothing changed in it. I beg of you, ask any senator, any one of the senators that changed their votes, point to the section of the bill that changed, that made your vote go from yes to no. Point to the section of the bill that's filled with pork. Point to the section of the bill that is not being spent on veterans. You won't because you can't, because it's not there.
And he's right about all of what he just said there. There is nothing in that bill that's pork. Nothing. It's all for veterans' health care, all of it. The thing that's really sad in the greater picture, in the larger scheme of America and things American, is that veterans have to beg for health care because Americans have to beg for health care. Americans don't have health care coverage just because they're Americans. Every other civilized, industrial, G7 country does have health care for all of their citizens. We don't. And that's why veterans have to stand outside the Capitol in the middle of August. Well, it's the beginning of August. It's sweltering out there. Some of them literally need oxygen to breathe because they suffer from respiratory ailments due to inhaling things like jet fuel fumes from the burn pits. Now, I don't know if you know anything about jet fuel, but I do. Jet fuel is one of the most nauseating smells on the planet. I mean, it will make you so sick. When back in the day, when I worked on cargo planes. I worked on C-141 Starlifters. They're giant cargo planes, okay? And there's this portion of training that's called the cargo drop, and you have to participate in it if you want to go to the next level in the crew chief program. I did, and I participated in it. And what it is they take you up in a giant C-141, and they open the cargo bay doors. That is so that a pallet can be shot out of the back of that airplane and dropped as if it were mail going to soldiers deployed, or if it was a tank going to soldiers deployed, or if it was medical equipment going to an aeromedical evacuation unit, okay? Meanwhile, what happens is when the cargo bay doors open, and they're big, they're gigantic, okay? The jet fuel rushes in to the cargo bay. And you breathe all that jet fuel, and the tech sergeant, the guys with the 9 stripes on their sleeves, they think it's very funny when a trainee goes up like that because they don't tell you this. But the jet fuel is going to make you really, really nauseous. It's going to turn you green, and you're going to want to puke. And the tech sergeants, the master sergeants, the guys with, the armful of stripes, they love to watch you turn green, especially girls, because we were the first girls. There were 30 girls that started out in this this crew chief program, and I was one of them. Okay, and so they thought it would be really fun to watch me get sick. Well, for some strange reason, I got dizzy and nauseous, but I sat down on one of these, pallets And I put my head between my legs. Don't ask me how I knew to, like straighten myself up like that. And the tech sergeant, he got sick and he went into the head. He went into the bathroom. And when he came out, he had vomit all over his nice fatigues. And I did not. But that's jet fuel. Now they burn that leftover jet fuel in those burn pits. They burn medical waste in those burn pits. They burn plastic in those burn pits. They burn computers in those burn pits. And these guys come home sick and we don't have health care in this country as a function of being an American, let alone being an American who served. Still not covered. These illnesses are not covered. It's very sick. It's very sad. So from what I understand, from what Schumer was telling reporters this morning, is, it's almost 4:30 Eastern time right now, okay, on Tuesday, election day, primary day. And they're telling me that at 5 o'clock today, they will take another vote on the PACT Act, which is a shortened name for a bill that would give coverage, health care coverage, to these veterans who are suffering with these unbelievable illnesses as a result of breathing for 12 hours a day fumes from burn pits. All right, I just want to play you that bastion of genius that is Tommy Tuberville, the senator that Alabama sent us. I don't know why you send these people to the United States Senate, but you do. God help us, Georgia, if Georgia sends Herschel Walker. Just God help us. God help us, okay? But they sent us Tommy Tuberville, okay? And Tommy Tuberville said he's a no. He's a no.
My one vote might not block it. Some of my Senate colleagues on the Republican side might vote for it the way it is. But I've been telling them all along, this is not what we want. I'm on the committee. I've been listening to all this. This is not going to help our veterans. It's just going to put a facade over it, and it's going to look like we helped them, but it's not going to help them the way it should help them.
He has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, zero clue, zero idea about this bill. This bill is totally to cover the health care costs that these veterans need from a number of illnesses that are a direct result of being near burn pits for days and hours and years and weeks and months on end. And here's Marsha from Tennessee. Why did you send her to the Senate?
It is not my job to make Chuck Schumer's life easier or those running for election, their life easier. It is my job to be certain that I represent these veterans in Tennessee who have given their commitment to defend this nation. They have done it honorably. They have done it expecting care from the VA for harms that have come their way. And we should make certain that they have access to the care that they need.
She's a no. She's a no. Talking, with all this swagger about the veterans of Tennessee. They can go to the VA, but no place else. That's what she's saying there. She's a no.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844.
Somebody get her a hairbrush.
Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin have thrown them a cinder block instead of a life preserver.
Oh, shut up, Marsha. Really, I can't stand you. I can't take you anymore. Chuck Schumer's throwing them a cinder block instead of a life preserver. They're standing outside in Washington, D.C., where it feels like 95 degrees right now, just waiting. And these veterans are not going home. They're not going home unless and until there's a vote on the PACT Act. These are people who are so sick, so physically ill, who need medical care. And the Republican Party is literally saying, who gives a rat's ass? Not me. I'm in the high tower here. I'm in the isolated, lofty Senate. I don't need to care about those, riffraff down on the street. Let them eat cake. I mean, it's so sad and sick that we don't have universal health care in this country to begin with. But on top of it, that you have veterans who became sick at the hands of their own government. This isn't war wounds inflicted on them by an enemy combatant. This is war wounds that were inflicted on them by us, by our government, by their own government. And now your own government won't help them get well or stay somewhat healthy. It takes your breath away. Well, of course it does. Because they're not going to be happy until no one can breathe. Like no one. Kelly in Illinois.
Hi, Randy. I always love your take on issues. I think it was so shameful that Ivana's kids allowed Daddy Trump to take over the burial. There's so many things that bother me. Ivana's torso was the only part that was injured. No injuries on her arms or legs. And
why would there be injuries on her arms and legs?
I don't know. That's the report. And the coroner never took blood to see what was in her system. And the investigation team never tested the remnants of the coffee to see if that was drugged, too.
Drugged? She fell down the stairs and probably punctured a lung, broke a rib and punctured a lung. She was not in good shape. I had seen her.
Question.
She could barely walk without assistance. She was
okay. I didn't know all that part, but her body was cremated. That's what they're saying online.
Oh, and of course, whatever the internet says is true. Look, listen, the idea that this man buried her on a golf course is so strange and sick that you don't even have to go looking for strange and sick in this story by creating some sort of a conspiracy that she was murdered. Okay, you don't have to go there. What we already have is that the ex-husband of a woman who's not been married to him for 20 some odd years, who has had 3 husbands in between, got to say that she'll be buried on his golf course in a shallow grave, by the way, that doesn't even have sod on it.
Exactly. Those were not her wishes.
Well, how do you know that?
Oh, my God. Speaking from...
All right, then. Why is it that when you have a situation that is so bizarre, right there on its face, without adding to it your own mystical, magical thoughts about what could have, should have, didn't happen, but you think it might have, why do you do that? That is so ridiculous.
And she mentioned it to me specifically. She began the call with, I don't think that's her wishes. And I said, well, why don't we just not guess and you just focus on the shameful nature or whatever you think. So I'm not sure why she speculated.
Whatever you think. I mean, the shameful thing is that she was buried on a golf course with, like by her ex-husband who, okay, I'm going to tell you the best joke I heard. It's not my joke.
You couldn't help yourself.
Well, because I don't steal, I don't.
It's amazing, though. Share.
I don't steal jokes from people. I don't have to. But I was watching The Daily Show, which is still called The Daily Show, which cracks me up every time they say The Daily Show, because that's Carson Daly's old show that Jon Stewart took and then called it The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Okay, so now it's Trevor Noah. And last night they did a bit about this because it's so outrageous. And I don't know if you watched The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, but there's a weather girl who never gets to the weather. She never, ever gets to the weather. And she was standing there talking about that she was the mysterious lottery winner. This was the entree into this conversation, that she was the person who won the $1 billion in the lottery and that she wanted her anonymity, but she bought an island, blah, blah. And then she downshifted into, but I just can't believe that Ivana got buried on her husband's golf course because even in death, she's going to have to face his balls. And I just thought, that is Trump. Trump is not done humiliating the people in his life even after they're dead. Even after they're dead, he wants to humiliate them because she rejected him. She said no to him. They had one of the most famous divorces in the history of divorce. But the crazy thing is, who allows their ex-husband to decide where they're buried? But then again, if Ivana had any decision-making ability, she never would have married Donald Trump if she made good decisions in her life. You see what I mean? But I just, the whole story is so sick. It's so bizarre. It's so crazy. I mean, you've buried parakeets with more reverence. You know, you put them in a nice little shoebox and you have a little ceremony for them and then you cover them and you put a flower. None of that was done here. That's the sick thing. That's the most twisted thing. But you know what they say? They say if you cheat at golf, you will cheat in life, you will cheat on your wife. And that is what has happened here. And you can see that he had to have the last word. That's what you're looking at. Robin Mesa.
Hey, Randy. Hey, I wanted to make a comment about that one clip you made earlier about the guy showing how to go in and do rhino hunting.
Yes.
I was just hoping the guy afterwards was going to ask the questions, hey, aren't the Republicans the ones that think video games are creating all these mass shootings? Because his ad is 1,000 times worse because it's not only showing you the technique of how to do it, but who to specifically target.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And how you go and breach a house. A house.
Exactly.
Just,
I mean, it's 1,000 times worse.
It's a very modest little ranch-style home that Greitens is going into with his SWAT team under the auspices of I'm a veteran. Okay, I was a Navy SEAL. I mean, listen, Lauren Boebert puts AR-15s in her children's hands and puts that on a Christmas card. They are the most violent, virulent people I've ever seen, let alone in service to this country where they believe that they have the right to overthrow this government by force.
Absolutely. You know, the lie to cheat, lie to steal Republicans. I mean, they just don't give up. Like Kerry Lake out here, I'm in Arizona. And it'll be interesting to see this. They just don't think it out because even if Trump was to overturn the election, which will not happen, then that would make him ineligible in 2024.
Yeah, well, you know.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, so one of the insurrectionists, a guy named Guy Reffitt, who was one of the first people charged, got 7 years from a judge. 7 years in a federal penitentiary. His daughters were outside the courthouse, and this is what they had to say about that sentence.
To mark my dad as this horrible person, and then having him prosecuted like this when somebody is maybe even able to get elected again, doesn't seem right to me.
Trump deserves life in prison if my father's in prison for this long.
Trump deserves life in prison if my father is in prison this long. That's amazing. That they believe that their father was so duped by their president that their father actually became a violent insurrectionist. He was also a white supremacist. He's also a 3%er, you know, and but the family, the mom, the wife of Guy Reffitt, literally is an election denier who fundraises off of that on like GoFundMe pages and stuff like that. So, you know, don't expect her to, you know, say anything like that. But the daughter is like, you know, my father literally believed in Donald Trump so much that Donald Trump needs to be in prison for the rest of his life if my father's going to jail for 7 years. Look at the damage this man does. And even in death, he's not done. Even in death, he's not done humiliating somebody who left him. Because he cheated on her. You know why they got divorced, right? Ivana and Donald, they got divorced because he started porking Marla Maples. And it was all over the New York Post. It was on the front page. I mean, that's when I was a kid, right? And he said something about, well, I think he said Marla Maples was the best sex he had ever had. And humiliated Ivana like that. And so they got divorced. But, you know, she was like, don't get mad, get everything. And she got a lot of money out of this guy. And in death, he decides to get even, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why in the world her grave is on his freaking golf course, which, by the way, is now a cemetery. It used to be, just so you know, he had it classified as a farm. A farm. He actually has goats on the Bedminster grounds and raises hay. So he can claim it as a farm, which means he pays like $6 an acre in tax instead of $460 an acre in tax. What a psycho. And now he can claim it's a cemetery and reclassify the land as a cemetery, not a golf course, not a farm, but a cemetery. And that does three things. It takes away his obligation to pay property tax. It takes away his obligation to pay income tax on it. And it also makes it judgment proof. Meaning if he is sued and a judgment is levied against him for dollars, they can't take the land for the dollars. It's unbelievable. And this is why his followers like him. Because he's such a sniveling cheat. He's such a disgusting tax cheat. He's such a terrible person that they wish they could be more like that. They wish they understood that if you owned a golf course and you buried your wife on it, you could get a tax write-off. They wish they knew that. They would they would go out and kill people and bury them on their in their trailer parks. I guess I don't know. Chris in Illinois.
Yes, hi. Thank you. You were just making my point for me. I think that I can't guarantee that I've heard this, but the state of New Jersey has taken the measure of saying that if you classify a property as a cemetery and you go into bankruptcy court, that particular piece of property cannot be taken away from you. So that whole Bedminster property is totally protected from any bankruptcies that he might encounter down the road.
So here's what it says. Under New Jersey law, land being used for cemetery purposes is exempt from real estate and personal property taxes, as well as sales tax, inheritance tax, business tax, and income tax. And cemetery property is also exempt from sale for collection of judgments.
Oh, so the kids also will be able to inherit it then?
Oh, yes. Tax-free.
So that's why they were fine with having their mother buried under a piece of dirt.
I guess. I mean,
interesting.
Okay. It's really vile. This is really. It's who he is, though, and this is, as disgusted as we are with what he just did. That's how much the maggots love him for what he just did. They wish that they could go kill people and bury them on their property so that they don't have to pay taxes.
Oh, what a great future of America.
Oh, I love that he was, our president. I mean, it's just, it fills you with pride to know that that's why you would look up to him, because he's a tax cheat. Yeah, cemetery property is also exempt from sale for collection of judgments, with cemetery trust funds and trust income exempt from both tax and sale or seizure for collection of judgments against the company. So he buried his ex-wife there so he could make himself judgment proof. He buried his ex-wife there so he didn't have to pay real estate taxes. So he didn't have to pay personal property taxes or sales taxes or inheritance taxes. And his children, just like she just said, are standing there saying, it's okay that we buried mommy on the 19th hole. Mommy is the 19th hole. That's bad. Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Oh, my God. Ardeen in Colorado?
Yeah, hi. Hi. I'm watching your show. It's really interesting. And if Trump, actually I'm unaffiliated, my voting, I vote for the person, basically, not party related. I have three concerns. One is, if he runs for President Trump and he doesn't win, or the shenanigans start and all the BS starts, like what happened at last,
election
time. Yeah. What happens with his public, the ones that do not face the truth? That's scaring the crap out of me. It really is. I'm a senior. I'm going to be 70. I'm not frail, but it does scare me. I don't know how far these people are going to go if he is not voted in. And another thing that scares me is I really don't think he will be prosecuted. I've been watching the insurrection things going on, the investigation, and I actually think they're going to be dragging their feet. They're really not going to do anything because the fear of his cronies, the people following him, blindly following him.
Okay, and, so let me just give you a little bit of pearls here, little nuggets for you to understand the world in which you toil. So the Congress that is holding these hearings, they don't have prosecutorial authority. They cannot
send it to DOJ. Yeah,
right. And Merrick Garland was asked whether or not Trump running for president or Trump being a past president had any effect on his thinking about whether or not to charge or prosecute Donald Trump. And he said that's not his job. His job is not to decide that prosecuting Trump would tear this country apart or not prosecuting Trump would tear this country apart. That's not his job. That's that is the job of the president of the United States. That is the job of leaders in this country, political leaders. DOJ's job is to follow the facts wherever they lead, and if there's evidence of a crime, which obviously there is, to charge and prosecute that crime. So there you have it. That's where we are.
Do you really honestly think they will prosecute him?
If they have facts that they believe could withstand a jury trial, then yes.
Good. I like that. I love that because he should be behind bars. But with that too, I'm wondering what is going to happen to our country at that point. If he is prosecuted and imprisoned, what's going to happen?
Right. Well, what's going to happen if he's not?
I know.
So that's what so that's what an agent of chaos brings you. That's whenever you look at somebody and you say, if they win, what will we have won? Whenever you choose to fight a fight, you should always ask yourself, if I win this fight, what will I have won? And if you can't answer that question, don't fight the fight. That's what happens when you choose an agent of chaos.